That's like, it might be the 0.1%. I'd have to double check.
Yeah, actually, any of you math people out there watching, kind of do that. 5 million, 50,000 out of 5 million. Okay,
so I could probably figure this out real quick.
Roberto's on top of it. He can bust content. He can shoot fire about marketing, about business, and look up
so
figures.
yeah, 1%, the 50,000, the silver play button people, they're the 1%.
Okay, Nico just said 1%. Okay, he confirmed.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's if you're making the conservative estimate of like 5 million active YouTubers.
Even though it's probably 6 or 7, right?
I'm really sure it's closer to that 15 million that Social Blade says it is. I just want to be ridiculously conservative.
Wow. Okay.
But if we go with the conservative number,
it's still less.
50,000 people. The people with 100,000 subscribers or more, that's the 1%. People think Philip DeFranco and those folks are like the 1%. Oh, no. Those are clearly the 0.1%.
Right.
And the PewDiePie,
Liza Koshis, those kind of people.
The Liza Koshis, those are the point.
Like the point.
No, those are the 0.001. Like that's not, it's that narrow of a, because again, when you're talking about, wait a minute, 50,000 is 1%. The million play button people are 0.1% because that's only 5,000 people. And then 500 from there, that's the Liza Koshy tier. That's 0.01. That's 0.01. So like, what is making it on YouTube? Because you could have like 10,000 subscribers and you'd be in the top 10% of YouTube and no one understands that's the reality. No one understands the reality.
Nobody does. And Melissa says, I'm happy to be in the 5 million. So am I, Melissa. I have like 260 subscribers and I'm growing and I'm producing. I'm trying to do a video.
Peter, you might be in the top 4 million.
Thank you. I'm totally happy. Like, I love the journey. I just love doing it. I love the process. And I'm not going to do false modesty and say, I don't want all the subscribers in the world. I truly feel like what I can deliver, I think would be very beneficial to a large audience. But I'm just enamored. Like, I actually love to create a story because I think editing, it's the same thing with writing too, Nez Nation.
Yeah.
And I think Roberto would agree with this. Writing, filmmaking. Spielberg may go out and shoot 1 million feet of footage for Saving Private Ryan, but it's the editor that makes a story. That's where the story comes from. And as Elmore Leonard said, the great writer, he said, all writing is rewriting. So editing, I actually love, Roberto, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, I love piecing together, juxtaposing images, putting music, even though I'm just using my MacBook Pro and I'm using, I'm not maybe using the top tier products and devices and softwares.
You really don't need to.
I just love doing it. Like, and the fact that 260 people are like, we like what you're putting out, like, is just, to me, it's awesome. Now, again, I'm not going to do, I'm not
Liza Koshy. Aside from her winning personality,
she amazes me. She's so talented.
The formula of like Snapchat and Vine, because she was a Viner. She took the formula of
wasn't Logan Paul a Viner too?
Yes, and Jake Paul as well. But what Liza and Logan both did was they understood and were self-aware about what worked in Vine and scaled the formula for YouTube. But I think Liza mastered it. I mean, the Paul brothers have the attention right now, but Liza mastered it as a true creator in my sense. And
she's so good.
Logan, they're gaming the system. They understood, they figured out the culture of YouTube and the culture
they did.
Algorithm. Liza is a talent, and the editing style of what she does very much favors an ADD generation. Like
the jump cut, the millions of jump cuts. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not lazy jump cutting either.
No, it's not. Yeah, I agree.
My jump cutting is lazy as hell. And I specifically explain to people that it should be, because the thing is, when you're starting, and also if your content is old school YouTube, direct to camera, it's like vlog brother style, like John and Hank Green. If it's that type of content, or if you're an educator, you should be doing lazy jump cuts. You should be doing simple B-roll transitions. You shouldn't be trying to be Casey Neistat.
Right.
And you shouldn't be spending 4 hours editing. You should be spending less than an hour editing. You should be putting yourself on a timer. If it's, and by that I mean, if it's less than 20 minutes of content, it shouldn't be taking an hour to turn it around. Because that's impractical for scale. And the longer you take to do that to be fancy, you're not delivering the value of the education of the information in a way that your audience really needs. And it's nothing against anyone who wants to be fancy, but I realized that it's holding you back a lot of times, because what I did was I audited my channel. I realized the videos that I spent so much time on, they didn't perform. The videos where I was concise and fun and informative and energetic, and I was more pumped about the thing, or it solved the biggest problem for the largest group of people, regardless of how I felt about the content. Like, the videos that perform the best, I don't think by far are my best content. The content that I think is the best underperformed. And that's the reality of why I say quality is fake. Quality is fake because it's subjective. And
right.
So remember what we talked about what's real and what's not?
Yeah.
What's real, what I like is not what you like. What you say is quality is not what I say is quality. It's like, so that lack of consistency means that it's fickle, it's ephemeral, it's abstract. An abstract concept, I understand, and when I say it's fake, I'm using that as a slang term.
Of course.
For not consistent or replicable or reliable.
Right.
That's what
it's not constant. It's not constant.
Right. But you know what is constant? Production is constant. Turnaround time is constant. The time you have available to do something, those are measurable, quantifiable, consistent realities that cause you stress, anxiety, that put pressure on you, possibly pressure on your family. The quality of a video, its success or failure, may not directly impact anything in your actual life. The time you spend to make it perfect will, and that will affect your life and your relationships. And that's how YouTubers, content creators sometimes destroy their real life in favor of their digital life, is because the putting this thing first to scale it to the highest quality may not have been necessary. Sometimes they take unnecessary risk with their content as well, especially comedians, and it may not have been necessary. There would have been something that was reliable that they could have done, auditing their data, saying this worked, I could do this, and it's safe. And I understand not wanting to always play it safe, but there's I'll get into a real short rant, because like I've been going for a while and we really need to answer some questions for people. But
it's so amazing. We're already at the hour mark, and guys, I know you have a lot of questions, but isn't this, I'm so impressed. Like, I'm learning so much, and I'm hoping I'm going to I know I know Roberto can probably see that I'm recording this, because I'm going to be repurposing this on YouTube. I have a separate playlist for my Nez Nation Live talk show. And so this is something I'll probably, with the permission of Roberto, I'll be showing to my class too. I've shown other live streams to my class. So like, this is like just great information.
Which is, by the way, I know that there are people like yourself, educators, using my content. I feel like a 95% filter is fine, meaning that you don't have to be 100. You can be 95%. You can be 90%. In real life, if we were at a bar or karaoke, I might have dropped 2 or 3 F-bombs by now. Right. But like you're cognizant of that. Yeah. Right. The reality is I'm cognizant of the fact that there are people who watch my content with their family or their kids, or put on the audio from it in the car while they're, and I don't know who's there. I don't know if they're at work. And so I keep my content safe for work, and I keep my content classroom friendly. And I don't believe that's me censoring or limiting myself in any way. It's not a restriction. It's the same restriction I put on myself in front of my goddaughter. So it's respecting the context of a relationship. And so I want to make sure people understand, as a main point before I make my other one, that where I'm going to talk about PewDiePie, is that authenticity isn't always about being 100%. It's about being real and not being disingenuous, not being dishonest. It's not saying every thought that flitters into your head, as people would like to think, make you believe that not being allowed to voice every thought and opinion in your head isn't censorship. That's not filtering. That's not you being fake. That's not being inauthentic.
Right.
That's called understanding what a public forum is and being tasteful. And
it's
there's
like
nothing wrong with
people
that.
who say, it's like the same people who say, like, I think you shouldn't eat that because you're fat, or like, I think you look fat. And it's, or they come up to you and say, you're fat, and say, well, I'm just being honest. Don't you want me to be authentic? No, you're just obnoxious. You're just an a-hole.
Yeah. You know what? In our grandparents'
you have
time,
zero tact.
like that, in our grandparents' time, and everything like that, I mean, the laws still exist, and I'm not advocating for assault or anything like that. The consequences of that weren't, someone yelling at you or unfriending you and everything like that. It was them punching you in the mouth. And there's days when I miss that. Again, not officially, not advocating for violence. I'm just saying, back in my grandparents' time, the consequences to being rude were very different, which is why a lot of people didn't do it. And I don't know, maybe if things were different, less people would feel entitled to be rude. I don't know.
Right.
Like, maybe that's a thing. I don't know.
I want to get to a question here,
Let's do it.
Roberto. And by the way, fantastic stuff, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Please share this out again because
Let's just do a couple of questions real quick, and then I'll make my PewDiePie point later.
Absolutely. So Gord says, you recently mentioned that Instagram is going to be a platform to show more of your vulnerable side.
Yep.
Why do you feel it's so important to show your vulnerable side? Great question.
And
he also said, by the way, Roberto, he also said, I use the audio from Roberto's content and enjoy it while I'm out walking. Very cool.
Oh, that's amazing. Make sure you're tuning into the podcast, man. I owe you guys more episodes of the podcast.
We're going to leave. I'm going to have Roberto, by the way, sorry, real quick, Roberto. I'm going to have Roberto leave in the comments. He's going to go in there and leave in the comments all of his links to his channel, his iTunes podcast. Roberto, if you wouldn't
mind, and the new Anchor
call
and show, and
there'll be like 20 links. There'll be like 30 links in one comment. You'll be link heavy by the time he's done with you.
Scroll.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But no, it's a great question.
Why is it important to show your vulnerable side, Roberto?
It's a great question from Gord, and I super appreciate it. It's because, and again, you don't have to go overboard on this, but there's a disproportionate value in vulnerability. And it's because in a world where everyone is stressing about looking bad and is actually a lot of people, especially in social media, are being fake, you don't have to reveal the intimate details of your life. But it's about relatability. We trust people who can relate to us. We trust people who are human. Not to get political, but the most disappointing thing to me in this recent election cycle was how unrelatable the options were in many cases for me. Yeah. And it wasn't about identity or culture for me. It was about context of the, like, in essence, it's like, there's some interesting things. It's that as an entrepreneur and as someone who actually enjoyed watching Celebrity Apprentice and like has been known to quote the book Art of the Deal.
Oh, I loved Celebrity Apprentice. Yeah.
There's a part of me that always will be a fan of Donald Trump, the entrepreneur, for certain reasons. And even though there's tons of business stuff I disagree with him on, there are aspects of him. Barack Obama even wrote a college paper where he talked about Donald Trump representing the American dream, which I disagree with that on some levels. I believe he represents a fantasy more than the American dream. I believe the American dream is really about true practicality and about the kind of people who come from nothing and get their hands dirty and build something from nothing, not who inherit. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with that. I just believe and respect entrepreneurs like Mark Cuban, who were like me, that I identify with. He was getting the same $5 allowance that I was. He became unemployable the same way I did because he actually did know better than his bosses, and not because he thought so, but because the clients thought so. Right. And he did something about it.
Right.
I relate to that story.
Right.
Because
he earned that sort of integrity and that ethos.
Exactly. And he learned things the hard way. And I think it gives you a different respect for the people working for you and for the working class people who are aspiring to build something. You understand what it is when you make something with your own two hands in that way, rather than just growing something that a foundation was laid from you that you inherited. And again, It's nothing against anyone who inherits, and it's nothing against the Donald and everything.
You can always lose your inheritance too, right, Roberto? I mean, even though he did inherit it, and a lot of people have inherited their a kind of treasure trove of capital, to sustain it, grow it, and scale it. I know
people who are living off of the death benefit from their parents' insurance, but their kids aren't going to have jack. I see that. I know personally people it's sad to me, but here's where, there's things where I can identify with those things of Donald Trump, but then they're outweighed by things where it's as a person, how do I relate to this person? They live a lifestyle that I can't understand. And even in their early days, their lifestyle was something that I've never experienced and I can't understand. I can't wrap my head around. And then with Hillary Clinton, you have somebody that also is an elite as well, but at least this person came from the middle class. But then there's so many things that she has that are unrelatable or unlikable too. But at least in her regard, I'm like, you're the misunderstood nerd. And the reason I don't relate to you, though, is because you learned how to fake. And I spent my whole life just getting punched because I refused to fake. Right. So I have someone that I couldn't identify with because they never had to fake a thing in their life because they always could just be louder, had more money to throw at it. There was no consequence for them being authentic.
Yeah.
And then I had someone whose the consequences of being authentic were so terrible that they couldn't withstand them and stay authentic.
Yeah.
So it's like I couldn't choose between someone who was authentically like not a person that I could have a beer with and relate to versus someone that I don't know who this person is if I have a beer with them. And so that was terrible for me because no one was real to me. No one, or what was real to me was horrible. And the thing is, the thing that's like that I can almost relate to, I don't even know if that's real. So it's like I have a horrible reality, or I have one that I can't even trust is true.
Right.
So it's like I have a horrible
I think
truth.
that's a great summation of the
Or
entire
I have
electorate.
this lie that I know is a lie. I don't know how much of it is a lie, but I know that it feels false.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, this ugly truth or this mask that I don't understand what's underneath it. Like that's a terrible imposition to be in. And I'm just sad that we couldn't have better. And the only reason I bring it up in politics is to say, you say, what's the value of vulnerability?
Well, yeah.
You know what you're getting with me. You know who I am. You know my story. You know where I stand. And you have chronicled backlogs of understanding. And so when I make changes or pivot, it's not out of left field. You know where I'm coming from. It's you know why. You know where these changes are. You've seen the evolution. You've seen the progress. You've seen those videos from before I got serious about YouTube in 2013. You see the pre-2013 stuff where I'm horrible on camera and I'm awkward as hell and I'm stiff and I'm monotone and I'm unexcitable and it's just bad.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing I don't have any awkward videos.
Right?
I think 90% of my videos.
I leave them up because you need to know that I'm not an overnight success. You need to know that, I consider being a YouTuber starting for me in 2013. But Roberto, you started your channel back in 2009. Talk about inauthentic. It's like, I don't have the audacity to call myself a YouTuber from 2009 because I wasn't consistent. I wasn't consistent in anything until 2013. And only when you've made a commitment do I feel that and again, it's not, I jokingly say it's that you have to put out something every week to be a YouTuber, but I just use that as a baseline slang for you're being consistent. Because I know that there are channels that can't do that if they're film or animation or this or that, although I have strategies and tactics where they could, but maybe it doesn't fit. But I say it to say, until you've committed, you don't get the claim that I am this or I am that until the commitment is made and you understand the price of it. And so I didn't commit to YouTube until 2013. I may have started my Instagram account, God knows when, but I didn't commit to Instagram until recently.
Yeah, same here. Same here, man. Yeah.
So it's commitment. So what's the value? What's the importance of showing your vulnerability? It's that when you say something about me and it needs to be contradicted by me or anyone in the community, they've got the ammunition to back it up. When I say that I believe this or I believe that or whatever, I can back it up. When I say that, like, because I'm sure I mentioned it in a video at some point last year. When I say it's like all of you just woke up to Jake Paul. I was talking about him a year ago. I'm sure there's a video back there somewhere where I can say, like, because I was talking to my best friend Malcolm. He's an actor, and I was like, this is before he blew up on YouTube. He was still a Viner, but I wasn't really following Vine except for the business side as much. But the reason I knew about Jake Paul was I was consulting for Disney, and I was at VidCon last year, and they were premiering the Disney show Bizaardvark, and like Maker Digital was involved, and there was all these so I had a client relationship with Disney that was making me pay attention to everything they were doing with the brand. And I was like, you tapped into, a popular Viner. And then like that became part of the conversation of using influencers in produced content.
Right.
And so I was paying attention to him because of that and paying attention to some of their other social media, like some of their other personalities and what they're doing in social media. And I was telling my best friend Malcolm, I was like, scaling your acting career by building your personal brand, pay attention to Jake Paul. Pay attention to what he's doing. It's going to matter. And here we are. Gary Vaynerchuk said the same thing a year ago, a couple of months later. And I think he actually even had him on the Ask Gary Vee show before he really blew up in YouTube.
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was watching it. Gary Vee was watching it. Anyone who audits and monitors this whole landscape of commoditizing information or attention.
Yeah.
All of us were paying attention to Jake.
All about eyeballs are monetizable, right, Roberto?
Yeah, you were in my live stream and I broke down this is how Jake Paul pivoted. Like, this is where it happened. It's like, this is where the consistency in thumbnails, this is where the consistency in content. So again, go back.
I really hope, Roberto, you do a lot more. I know that Now, it's always been a dream of mine to have a show like this and have people like you come on. Like, and I feel like, honestly, being, somebody who's been in front of people giving, I mean, think about it, being a writing professor for 12, 13 years, going on my 13th year, I've pretty much went live. I've been giving public speeches
in real life all day,
literally every time I go to work, right? In real life.
Right.
So this was such a nice, seamless transition for me. And
That's
really
the secret.
hope, that's the secret. And I really hope, Roberto, that you do more live streaming, even though it is kind of one of those, and I don't even give a rat's ass. I mean, people are calling it the new fad, the new bandwagon. I don't care. I love video and I love
it is and it
video.
isn't, because like initially when like in the early days of television, in many cases, that's all you could do is broadcast.
Right.
And so it's the context.
Well, I guess in this medium, right. Yeah. That's
this medium, but like contextually, the value of this and why it's so popular now, but it's not going to go away, is because broadcasting is authentic, because you can't edit and you can't, like, that's after the fact.
Yeah.
So it's real. So, I mean,
I hope you do a lot more, Roberto. I hope you do a crap ton more.
The plan is there. It's a matter of, I do it in all the platforms, and I've done hundreds of live streams, literally.
Do you do Instagram Live, by the way?
I do on occasion, but
how do you like your engagement? How do you find your engagement?
It depends on how you measure it. Like, I do based on the quality of the back and forth.
Right.
Which is, again, that's abstract. But in real marketing terms for that, it's more valuable to me than the numbers, because it's the equivalent of what you get from a focus group or a speaking engagement. And the thing is, that organic thing, even if I can't mark it off as a measurable analytical statistic, and I'm like, it's like those numbers are just numbers and everything like that. When real people tell you they love or hate what you're doing, that's real. That's data. That's
one
data.
Thing about right, exactly. And one thing for me, and this is what I do too, I work with clients on live video marketing for consulting. I always say, don't worry about, I mean, obviously you want as many live viewers as you can, but a lot of that stuff is out of your control. You do what you can to gain
in business.
In business,
all these people who do cold calls, that's
right.
live to one person, which isn't even scalable. I was just like, I'm telling all these people I did on stage, I'm like, start doing bloody webinars. Because right there, you just saved so much time, because it was opt-in, it's qualified. They're on the, like Glengarry Gunners, they're on the lot. They want to buy. If you opted in and you're getting ready to commit an hour like you are for this show, you're a qualified buyer for whatever the associated product is, or whatever the value proposition is, or whatever the problem, the thesis is. So that's a qualified lead. And if you're capturing email off of that or other information, then it's disproportionately valuable compared to one at a time, one-on-one calls, which people still value, and because that's one-on-one context, but that's cold calls. I'd rather call and follow up from a webinar. I'd rather call because you've already given me your time and attention, and so you're already happy about my call. I don't have to. I've already found a way to respect your time by qualifying you first. That's what I don't like about cold calling, is I don't like that's not truly qualified lead, because it's qualified lead based on this cold analytical data that has no consideration for the person or their time, versus if I'm following up with you from a previous engagement, that's not a cold call, it's a follow-up.
That's a follow-up.
So I'd rather do that. I'd rather have a warm follow-up than a cold out of the blue call like that. And that matters, because it's about the context. And so
I love that Instagram actually instituted the replay for live, because what I was going to say was, what I tell my clients is, you do what you can to get your live viewers, but the replay is the bulk. The replay, people are not cognizant. Alex Kahn was on the show about a month ago, and Alex Kahn mentioned this too. People only focus on the live viewership. And believe me, Nez Nation, I am super grateful. I love all you guys watching this live. We've gone well. This is literally the longest, and I have no problem with it. This is the longest we've ever had a guest on. And because it's Roberto, and I'm just so, I mean, I had a list of questions. I'm burning him up. I love this. Like, I just love hearing him kind of really educate. Again, there's that word, educate us on the nuances of this digital ecosystem. And so I tell my clients,
that's the key, by the way.
Yeah.
It's the nuances.
Exactly. And so I tell my clients, and I know Alex does too, I'm sure you do too, the replay is the bulk of the viewers, which is why I think YouTube, once you go live on YouTube, correct me if I'm wrong, Roberto, you can optimize that SEO right afterwards. You could even change the thumbnail. A lot of people, I had clients go, well, it tells me to take a picture. Yeah, so what? You can change the thumbnail later. It's not a big deal. I actually don't, Roberto.
I'm actually still changing old thumbnails to match current branding.
Are you really?
Like I have such a backlog of inventory before
Right.
certain pivots. And the thing is, I've commissioned new artwork that, those mini Roberto characters. I just
Oh yeah,
literally,
I like that. Yeah.
yeah. Today you saw the one with that's Mr. Moneybags.
I
It's
actually like the music too. The music to me is kind of, it's not like some people might say like, well, it's just like it's kind of like just a sort of R&B beat, but it's more than that. It's kind of moody. There's like a moodiness to
yeah,
that
and
music. It's
yeah,
not
and
cheesy.
more,
It's not chintzy. It's not like
yeah,
sarcastic.
it's more ambient and it borders on almost the EDM feel, which is what I like because I'm a Lindsey Sterling fan. But it's like,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel pumped orchestral, dubstral kind of thing. It's like, so it's like it's this balance of anyone could listen to it, and that's why I picked it.
My
And
wife actually stopped what she was doing and she was like, "Where's that music coming from?" Because I was watching you on our television on YouTube Red, and
Mhm.
she was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Listen to this music. Like this is YouTube's kind of outro and intro for his live stream, and it's got that sort of it grabs you. It kind of plugs you in. You know, I
Yeah,
kind of
I
like
got
it.
that from Audio Blocks, and it's like I scoured for like a
That's really
long
cool.
time to source that like audio, and I picked that for my podcast too as the intro and outro to my podcast. And
Mhm.
so I wanted the audio experience. I'm investing in. I have to follow up with this young man, but this young man reached out to me from I think either Instagram or something, and he's one of many musicians I want to work with. I'm going to trade consulting to him, but they're going to make exclusive
cool.
music for me for my brand
Oh,
because
nice.
I'm crafting an audio experience associated specifically with my brand.
See, I
And
see. That's what I was telling my wife. I go, I guarantee you. This is what I said, Roberto, and I'm going to kind of pat myself on the back here for a second. I was telling her, I go, I guarantee you, Roberto's going to do something with music, coalescing that with the video, and he's going to create this sort of musical experience that really augments his content in a different way. And you just said it right there. I love that. Hey
yeah,
guys, by the way,
I'm having
yeah,
that made. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's so cool. By the
Same thing with
way,
artwork. I'm commissioning artists and I'm getting artists that are volunteering to do stuff for me for free. I'm looking for and obviously I'll either trade them consulting or they get to be part of my membership group that they would normally pay for or whatever, or if they want access to my courses when they there's always something in, and this is the other part about elevating your brand and creating leverage to where like it's more valuable for someone to get into your ecosystem than to take money from you because they can't afford what they want from you later anyway. Like
oh, I
when
love
I
that.
can give people, when it's like, I can pay you the $200 you're asking for, or I can give you $1,000 in value. Pick.